From our studio here in Accra, coming up, there's our government to save about 10 million Ghana cedis annually by cutting down the number of ministers to 60. Also, Deputy Education Minister designate for reinforced calls for bipartisan probe into persistent West African education certificate, WAEC examination malpractices resulting in the withholding and delay in the release of exams results.
Seeking a bipartisan committee to probe matters to do with WAEC and examination malpractices. I think it is a challenge.
We have details as the nominee justifies the government's position to fully reinstate the authority of PTA to help deal with discipline in schools. Also coming, a minority in Parliament berates Communications Minister, accusing him of unconstitutionality of shutting down some radio stations.
I thought that the minister in his early days will focus on the promise and the manifesto of the NDC.
More from Parliament on a day an MP demanded answers from the police on the killing of his constituent, allegedly on instruction of Newmont Ghana Limited.
When the Constitution says uphold the dignity of men, and that it uses the word inviolable, it is not for the police to shoot as and when they please. No.
Well, Ghana could save at least 10 million Ghana cedis if the current Mahama administration maintains its commitment to appoint only 60 ministers. So far, 56 ministers have been appointed, with 4 more yet to be named. This represents a reduction of about 25 ministers compared to the previous government. Ghana's growing expenditure has been a major concern in current time, even under the extended credit facility by the IMF. In 2024, Ghana's budget deficit was revised to 42 billion cedis, which was about 4.2% of the country's GDP. As part of measures by the current Mahama administration to reduce the government expenditure, he promised to reduce the number of ministers to 60. Checks by Joe News reveal that the annual salary burden for ministers will drop from 30.8 million cedis to 21.7 million. Over the next 4 years, this reduction is projected to save the country approximately 36.4 million Ghana cedis. Let's share with you exactly what we found out in terms of, this cut in salaries and then the reduction as a result of the reduction of ministers by 25 ministers, because the John Mahama administration promised to do 60 ministers. That is what the promise is like. Now, we'll run you through what the data is like. You'd see that in terms of the number of, nurses and ministers who are being saved, you realize that a lot of money, about 30 million cedis annually. Now, away from that, the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association has clarified the ongoing concerns surrounding health sector recruitment. The group earlier threatened to withdraw their services across the country after the Chief of Staff, Julius Debra, issued a directive revoking the recruitment and promotions of some 10,000 persons which were affected by the Yeshua Akufo-Addo government after December 7 elections. However, speaking on PM Express, Assistant National Public Relations Officer Philemon Japon intimated the association is aware of financial clearance for 15,200 health professionals, which it brought before the new health minister, Kwabena Akando. He added that based on the assurance from the sector minister, no nurse or midwife will be affected by the directive.
At the moment, I would say no. We met the minister right after that directive was released, and we had a meeting with him. He explained the details of that or the import of that letter to us, and the fact that nurses and midwives had their financial clearance as far as June 2024, 15,200 nurses were given financial clearance to be posted into the health sector to work. It was inappropriate to say those who went through this due process should go home and should cease from working. What I'm aware is that the former administration, that is the former NDC, MPP government, gave financial clearance to 15,200 nurses. And we are expecting 15,200 nurses to be posted within that period. That is spanning from August 2024 to December 31st, 2024. If anything went contrary to that, it is going to come out as a result of their investigation.
He has been speaking on PM Express here on the Joy News channel. Now, away from that, the President John Dramani Mahama has assured that he is committed to ensuring the Bank of Ghana operates independently, free from political interference. He emphasized that he will not instruct the central bank to print any more money. Speaking at the swearing-in ceremony of the newly appointed governor of the Bank of Ghana, along with First Deputy Governor Dr. Johnson, Pandit Asiama and Zachary Mumuni, respectively, President Mahama criticized the Akufo-Addo government's approach to the banking sector cleanup. He argued that the reforms were too narrowly focused and failed to consider their human impact.
Our recent banking history has shown us the cost of neglecting this truth. During the supposed banking sector cleanup exercise, thousands of jobs were lost and lives were disrupted because decisions were made with a narrow focus rather than the consideration of the human impact of those decisions. The Bank of Ghana had the opportunity to salvage some of these institutions to protect people's livelihoods while ensuring stability, but instead, an approach that ignored human consequences was what was made. The test of your patriotism in this solemn duty of economic governance lies in learning from these missteps, recognizing that policies must not only enforce regulations, but also safeguard the future of persons that depend on them. The lessons of the past remind us of the dangers of fiscal recklessness and the lasting harm it can inflict on an economy. When government resorts to unsustainable consumption, expenditure, financed by excessive and unregulated printing of money, the consequences can be severe, from spiraling inflation, erosion of incomes, to driving millions into poverty. Such actions not only weaken public confidence in financial institutions, but also threaten long-term stability. To safeguard our economy from these risks, we must uphold responsible fiscal management, strict adherence to legal and regulatory framework, and protect the independence of the Bank of Ghana. As President, I'm committed to ensuring that the central bank operates free from political interference, guided solely by its mandate. This is the path to building a resilient economy, one where policies are driven by discipline, foresight, and the best interests of the Ghanaian people. One thing for sure, I'm not going to come and ask you to print more money. I encourage you to work closely with key institutions, including the Ministry of Finance, Parliament, and the financial industry, while maintaining the independence your mandate requires.
Well, Dr. Asiama outlined 6 key priority areas he will focus on, including inflation and dealing with exchange rate volatility.
We shall adopt a more proactive and precise approach to managing inflation, leveraging on advanced data analytics and artificial intelligence. Also, we shall coordinate policy efforts with other government agencies, for example, in managing food prices. Excellency, we are confident that the current levels of inflation, although relatively high, will gradually trend back to target range and within the forecast horizon. Excellencies, our second priority is on the need to preserve exchange rate stability and limit excessive volatility in the rates. The days of currency speculation and exchange rate instability must come to an end. And we are poised to ensure just that. In this regard, Your Excellency, the Bank of Ghana, under our leadership, will engineer a well-functioning and stable foreign exchange market to support economic activity. Among others, we will implement strategic interventions, including the enactment of a new foreign exchange law to replace the Foreign Exchange Act 2006, Act 723. Excellencies, we shall tackle the problem of high non-performing loans and weak risk management practices in the industry. We shall work closely with banks to reduce the high incidence of cybersecurity breaches and strengthen capital adequacy requirements.
Now let's return to our earlier story where Ghana could at least save some 10 million cedis if the current Mahama administration maintains its commitment to appointing only 60 ministers. Now, so far, we know that 56 ministers have been appointed, with 4 more yet to be named. This represents a reduction of about 25 ministers compared to the previous government. Ghana's growing expenditure has been a major concern in current time, even under the extended credit facility by the IMF. In 2024, Ghana's budget deficit was revised to 42 billion cedis, which is about 4.2% of the country's GDP, as part of measures by the current Mahama administration to reduce the government expenditure. He promised to reduce the number of ministers to just 60. Now, checks by Joy News reveal that the annual salary burden for ministers will drop from 30.8 million cedis to 21.7 million Ghana cedis over the next 4 years. This reduction is projected to save the country approximately some 36.4 million cedis. Let's share with you what we understand. At most 60 ministers and deputies. Now, also, when you look at the figures and you talk about the ministers and deputies, the previous government had 85 ministers. Mahama is promising to have 60 ministers. The average monthly salary of a minister is 30,202 cedis, and that is what is at play now. Total annual cost for the 85 ministers was 30.8 million cedis. If President Mahama is able to stick to his 60 ministers, it means that annually we will be spending 21.7 million Ghana cedis on the 60 ministers. That means this government will be able to save Ghana 9.1 million Ghana cedis in annual expenditure on ministers. Now, if you look at the government's promise, they promised to scrap some, taxes and levies. For example, the e-levy, they said they will scrap it. COVID-19 levy, President Mahama has promised to scrap it. And betting tax will be scrapped as well. Now, these are all taxes and levies that will be scrapped. Now, if you scrap them, what is the revenue that we will lose? So, COVID-19 levy alone is projected to be bringing us some 13.91 billion Ghana cedis. E-levy is projected to be bringing us 8.27 billion Ghana cedis. Betting tax, 5.1 billion Ghana cedis. So if you scrap these taxes and levies, this is how much the country is losing. 27.9 billion Ghana cedis is how much we will be losing. Now, so that's exactly how much that we'll be losing. In terms of our debt service obligation for 2025, we are supposed to, spend some 10.85 billion US dollars to service our debts. This is what the burden we have currently in terms of the nation. How much do we need to pay in terms of debt? 10.85 billion. So this is what, our debt burden is. And for the savings we will make in terms of the president appointing lesser ministers, at least it will go a long way to help us in defraying our debts. Away from that, though, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is urging all embassies and high commissions in Ghana to put in place humane conditions at their embassies. According to the ministry, the move forms part of remedial measures to the numerous complaints by the public on how Ghanaian citizens are treated when they visit foreign missions in Ghana for visa applications. Now, what we do know, from the ministry, and he says, and this was released on 24th February 2025, says the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has engaged embassies and high commissions on the numerous complaints by the public on how Ghanaian citizens are treated when they visit foreign missions in Ghana for visa applications. The complaints cover issues such as not providing conducive waiting areas, non-availability of emergency services, and also, other complaints that have been cited, including long waiting times for appointment date, as well as challenges in issuing visa application websites. So Ghanaians are complaining about challenges in using the visa application website. Now, he says, or the ministry says, to address these concerns, the ministry has dispatched a note verbally to all embassies and high commissions, urging them to put in place appropriate and humane conditions at their embassies, high commissions, and visa centers. It is the ministry's expectation that foreign missions will respond positively and appropriately to the request. Now, the ministry will continue to take steps to ensure that the embassies and high commissions comply with the directives therein stated in the note, while acknowledging that embassies and high commissions reserve the right to determine who they issue visas to. The ministry takes this opportunity to assure the public of its commitment to address the concerns of Ghanaian visa applicants. So that is what the minister is, communicating to the public there. Charles Esuaku Oredu is MP, former Foreign Affairs Minister. He joins us now for some interaction on this. Grateful to you, sir, for joining. Was this issue of inhumane treatment at visa application centers a significant issue during your time in office?
Thank you for the opportunity. Yes, these are issues that are common. These are issues that are known to me. Okay. Just that I think that the foreign minister or the foreign ministry left out some. Some of these other issues that were left include one, that the refusal of these embassies to sort of give tangible reasons why visa applicants are issued. Okay. Why visa applicants are refused. Again, people are refused on the basis that though they've submitted genuine documents, they are told that the documents are fake. And then again, we've had instances where embassies, refuse, and then you are issued letters that are in foreign languages. For example, the Spanish embassy, they refuse you a visa application, and then the refusal is in Spanish. How are you able to read and even seek an appeal, to some of these? So these are concerns that are not new to me.
And what did you do about them when you were in office?
So our strategy was engagement. Okay. Because if you look at what the minister just said, the minister issued a note verbal. And issuing a note verbal doesn't solve this challenge or this problem, because, like we all know, the Vienna Convention protects embassies and then consular activities. They are inviolable. You can't just go there and then do whatever pleases you. So, best approach to me should have been engagement. Engage the main players in this matter. Issuing a note verbal to all these embassies, to me, it doesn't solve the problem. Okay. The main culprit here, to me, are the UK High Commission, the US Embassy, the Schengen visa issuing countries, like the European countries, the Australian High Commissioner, or the Australian High Commission. These are the high commissions and embassies that Ghanaians do complain about. So what we did was to engage them one after the other. We did visit the American Embassy, we visited the UK High Commission, we did that with the Australian High, and then the Schengen, and then, had a discussion with them. Because if you a note verbal, they can just receive it and then just put it somewhere. That doesn't solve the problem. Again, if you look at the statement, via the note verbal, no timelines were given. So as we speak now, we don't even know whether they are going to comply or not. And if they don't comply, what actions will the minister take? I would advise the minister that when after giving them timelines, of which he didn't, if they don't respond appropriately, you can reciprocate, because in diplomatic relations, the principle of reciprocity, it's something that can be used, as a policy, to get them to treat Ghanaians humanely.
Okay. Now, from where you sit and from the explanation you've given, do you feel that the foreign embassies would treat this note verbal with all the seriousness, knowing very well that these are, countries that are sovereign?
I doubt it. They'll just put it somewhere. Like I said earlier, the best approach, the best strategy to me was to have, gotten the minister to engage them. So a matter of engagement to me would have solved these issues rather than sending a note verbal.
Okay.
Because you can't ask them to do whatever they feel like doing. I've been a high commissioner before. I used to be Ghana's high commissioner to South Africa. And then the South African government couldn't have issued a statement, a note verbal to me, to conform to some of the issues that were raised by the South Africans. No, that's not how it's done.
Okay.
Rather, engage, invite the high commissioner, invite the ambassador, and then have a discussion with the ambassador or the high commissioner.
Okay. Now some also attribute the situation to the influx of people to the visa or other visa centers who simply become desperate to leave the country regardless of the treatment. What do you make of this?
Oh, well, countries per the Vienna Convention, Article 5D, that states that are in Ghana are enjoined to issue visas. And then in terms of the issuance of visas, they are to determine whether the applicants qualify for the issuance of the visas or not. Ghanaians, by nature, we love to travel. People travel. No country is an island. We all travel to these developed countries or even other countries. They also come to visit us. So by virtue of having so many Ghanaians at your embassy or so many Ghanaians at your high commission does not give you the yardstick to treat them anyhow. Okay. I used to work, like I said earlier, at the Ghana High Commission in South Africa. And I can tell you the amount of money that we were making, for people who were coming in for visas, people who were coming in for other travel documents to enable them travel to Ghana.
Okay.
And I tell you, if you go to the UK High Commission, if you go to the American Embassy, if they should tell you the amount of monies they make out of Ghanaians, you'll be surprised.
Okay.
Sometimes they don't even take monies from their capitals. They use the monies that they get here, for even the payments of salaries and whatnot. So they are getting enough. So Ghanaians deserve better treatment. And I think that the way out of this is to have the foreign minister engage them rather than issuing a note verbal.
Grateful to you, sir, for joining us here. Now, away from that, the Deputy Minister for Education designate, Dr. Clement Park, has reinforced calls for a bipartisan probe into the persistent examination malpractices recorded during the West African Schools Certificate Examination and the Basic School Certificate Examinations. Now, he raised this concern during his vetting, in Parliament, including providing solutions to other key challenges facing the educational sector. There's more in this report.
This vetting started on a rather hard note, with ranking member Alexander Penyumaking probing the nominee Dr. Clement Park on his comment on Galamsey during the campaign period, calling on him to amend his position.
Do you stand by this, or you believe that with the benefit of hindsight, you could have used a more measured language?
Honorable Chair, with hindsight, I must admit that the language was rather harsh. I'm grateful.
Thank you very much. This comes without doubt, you being of the academia stock, and you've earned my respect.
On the persistent challenge of growing trend of misconduct by students, invigilators and sometimes parents during WAEC examinations, Dr. Park has proposed a bipartisan approach to dealing with the matter.
seeking a bipartisan committee to probe matters to do with WAEC and examination malpractices. I think it is a challenge. One of the reasons that we believe contributes to examination malpractices is WAEC's inability to recruit and deploy its own staff to invigilate and supervise examinations.
He also emphasized government position to reinstate the full authority of the Parent Teachers Association, PTAs, to address infrastructure deficit and enforce discipline in the schools.
Some students misconduct themselves or exhibit deviant behavior. Would a collaboration between parents and school authorities, they are able to address some of those challenges?
Also appearing before the vetting committee was the Deputy Minister for Energy and Green Transition, Richard Jan Mensah, who has been providing some clarification on the controversial move to privatize the Electricity Company of Ghana, as he assures of broader consultation with the TUC to achieve this purpose.
ECG currently needs capital injection. There are a lot of inefficiencies in the system, and I believe that bringing on board the private sector will play a very key role in resolving some of these challenges, and also to make them financially buoyant, to ensure that we have consistent and stable power supplies.
Deputy Ministers for Roads and Highway, Attorney General and Minister for Justice and the Lands and Natural Resources will be appearing before the committee on Wednesday. James Savage for Joy News.
Let's still stay in Parliament because the minority in the House are fighting Communications Minister Sam George, accusing him of acting unconstitutionally in the closure of some radio stations. The minister ordered the closure of 6 radio stations for operating without valid frequency authorization, but delivering a statement on the floor of Parliament. MP from Prayaso Davis and Opoku accused the minister of unlawfully ordering the closures. Still in Parliament, MP for Esutefe North, Ebenezer Kwekuado, demanded that the IGP be hauled before the House over the killing of his constituents by the police and other private security personnel of Newmont Mines. Kweku Asante has more in the following report.
The decision by Communications Minister Samuel Nate George to order the closure of 6 radio stations is still drawing the anger of the New Patriotic Party in the House. Last week, the minority leader did request that the minister must be programmed to appear before the House this week to answer questions relating to that closure. Today, a New Patriotic Party MP did make a statement, Davis and Sir Opoku, describing the decision by the minister as illegal.
Section 41 of the same Act limits the minister's powers to policy directives, not operational decisions. The directive issued in the media advisory oversteps legal boundaries and constitutes executive overreach.
The minority chief whip, Frank Anodompre, also insisted that he would have thought that given the enormous promises the NDC made in the communication sector in the lead up to the 2024 election, the minister would have been focused on meeting those promises instead of going about shutting down radio stations.
I thought that the minister in his early days will focus on the promise and the manifesto of the NDC. Definitely, the Ministry of Communication should be looking at the cost of data.
But Majority Leader Mahama Ayariga came up with a fierce support of the minister. According to Mahama Ayariga, the minister has acted squarely within the law.
Somebody is running a radio station, operating it without frequency authorization. And the minister dutifully directs that the law should be enforced. And you come to this house and say that we shouldn't close early and have lunch because of that matter. A minister is simply directing that enforce the law. What do you expect a minister to do? So please, I'm surprised that you will make the minister the subject of castigation, of unnecessary attacks. The minister will shut down the stations today tomorrow he will shut them down, tomorrow next he will shut them down. If they want, they should go for authorization. He will shut them down.
Still in Parliament, meanwhile, the Member of Parliament for Esutifi North did deliver a statement on the killing of some of his constituents by Newmont security personnel and some members of the Ghana Police Service.
The police security detail stationed to protect the concession of the mining company pursued 3 young men on a tricycle and opened fire on them, leading to the death of one and in the process injuring the others. The IGP sent a delegation to Kenyase for investigations to be conducted. However, outcome of the said investigation is yet to be known. Mr. Speaker, on 25th August 2024, the police and Newmont security operatives chased a 25-year-old young man spotted in their concession, leading to the young man falling into a dam created by Newmont and died as a result. Education
Minister Haruna Idrisu also expressed his strong disapproval to what he referred to as the trigger-happy officers in the Ghana Police Service who are just always ready to shoot and their treatment of suspects.
Just to caution the Ghana Police Service, and Mr. Speaker, yourself a good lawyer, when the Constitution says uphold the dignity of men, and that it uses the word inviolable, it is not for the police to shoot as and when they please. No. Even shooting is regulated by law, is regulated by conduct, regulated by practice. This trigger-happy, a portion of them who get trigger-happy, they get somebody, they start slapping. That's not dignity. That's not honor of dignity. Even trotro drivers, the way they treat them, that is not what the Constitution expects them to do.
MP for Esutifi South, Collins Dowda, came in and described as an insult the decision by Newmont Ghana Limited.
The company wanted to fund the funeral of the victims. You employ security people, they open arms on innocent citizens, they die. And you turn around to tell opinion leaders that you want to fund, take the bills of their burial. Clearly that was an insult. We will not be happy. They can do anything for us. We will not appreciate them if they continue to do what they are doing.
Parliament will sit again on Wednesday in preparation for the president to deliver his maiden State of the Nation address for his second term on Thursday. A number of issues will be discussed. MPs are programmed to ask ministers of state questions as well as deliver statements, all in preparation to the president coming to Parliament on Thursday. Reporting for Joy News, Kweku Asante, Parliament House, Accra.
And in the studio, I am Samuel Kojo Bruce. We'll take a break here. We'll be back with more. Please do stay. Welcome back from the break. Now, at least 5 students sustained severe injuries, with several others suffering injuries after violence erupted during a ritual spearheaded by traditional leaders in the Kwawega suburb of Boko, aimed at ending violent confrontations between students of Boko SHS and Boko Technical Institute. The students clashed, pelting stones at each other. Military personnel have since intervened and brought the situation under control. The 2 schools situated on opposite sides of the main road leading into Boko town have been long-standing rivals and have previously engaged in violent confrontations. Watch this.
Okay, DS, man, you take it here. Not only the wall, but disturbing each other. Any form of disturbing the teachers or one another. You know this one? It's a problem that it cannot stop unless you stop it. When you do it, it will affect you. So this is how we have to concern you. What do you look at us doing? This technical, this technical. Brothers.
You should go to replace headmaster. Headmaster is going to.
No, you are coming out to be adult. We are going to teach people.
And if you don't learn, how will you?
You learn a bad habit and go outside and how do you calculate this to your people?
You won't be beneficial to anybody.
It's the end of it. The wall is the end of it. Destruction is the end of it.
Yeah.
This one, this is the anybody who attempts consequences. You know meaning of consequences? Dire. Abomination has no remedy. You know about abomination. Thank you.
Stop! What is the spirit of killing people?
Wait.
Go.
You see?
These people are killing people.
Oh, quite some disturbing scenes there, but we'll urge the student to ensure that calm is maintained there. Now, away from that, some transport companies plying Kumasi and parts of the 3 regions of the north are contemplating withdrawal of services to parts of the enclave for security reasons. This comes after the shooting and torching of a bus at Wale Wale in the northeast region, resulting in the death of 7 people. Director of ADT Transport, Richard Kakari, addressing a press conference in Kumasi, called on the government to consider security arrangement for transport operators in a bid to support the local economy. There's more in the following report.
In mid-February, the coach owned by ADT Transport, which was transporting passengers to Kumasi, developed a mechanical fault at Loagri, near a police barrier. According to the driver's assistant, Hamidu, some gunmen opened fire on them early Saturday morning before setting the bus ablaze. The driver's assistant, who was able to run to safety, says with improved security, he is ready to continue plying the route.
We plead with government to improve security on this route. Plying it is becoming too risky.
Following the loss of lives, some of the transport operators are gradually withdrawing their services to parts of the regions of the north. Owners of ADT Transport say the government is yet to reach out to the transport operators on issues of security on the route. Richard Kakari is a director.
Na afufuro bi epese omoboa na operate transport sabe be boa ban no na se sa nyema we bekoso a.
If some private people are investing in transport business, it is up to the government to help us protect our investments. If the government is unable to provide the necessary security for us, then it will be better for us to park our coaches and ply other routes until peace is restored.
Na esrem ba bi entoko esie no ye nkoho na omo akowie na omo ka sa afedi akowie a na fe ya sha ase ayi adwuma.
Meanwhile, the ADT Transport, whose property was lost in the attack, wants the government to help arrest perpetrators of the crime. Mr. Kakari is pleading with the government to support the company in replacing the coach.
The government should help us arrest perpetrators of the crime so we can sue them for the lost investment, or government help us replace it. The injured and deceased may get some compensation from the insurance company, but we have nowhere to turn to.
For Joy News, Nanaya Ojima, Kumasi.
Well, time for us to bring you Showbiz, and Becky Bex is here. Charlie, I miss you like
yeah, good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too.
So the past 2 weeks, what were you doing? Missing me, I guess.
So much.
Yeah, I
so
miss
much.
you too.
Yeah, so much.
No offense to Carlos, but I miss Grace. Well, Brace, relax.
I'm relaxed.
Let's talk about the music industry. So music industry professionals from around the world recently gathered in Kingston, Jamaica for the Island Music Conference, which ran from February 19 to 23rd, chaired by multi-platinum artist Shaggy with events manager Sharon Burke and media expert Judy Bodley. As co-founders, the IMC continues to be a major platform for artists, executives, and creatives to exchange knowledge, experiences, and opportunities. BBC freelance journalist Mark Wilberforce was at the event and filed this report. And that was Spec the Boss, ending that report by Mark Wilberforce. Away from that, let's talk about Stonebwoy, because his up and running tour made a stop in Stonebwoy right there. But I read on social media that one of the shows have been cancelled. Yeah, right? That was the one which is supposed to take place in New York, Palladium Square. The team cited a technical issue, which is the reason why they're putting that on hold, rescheduling it to another date. So fans should expect that. That has been cancelled, but the rest of the tour is still ongoing in North America. They will make a stop in Canada and also then come back to the US to finish it up. There's also a London show happening that fans should look forward to. Praise.
All right, bing, 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 bing. And on that note, we wrap up today's bulletin. There's much more on myjawline.com. Up next is Pius Kojo Bakao Prime Business. Thanks for your time.